There, and get back into NX. So here I am in NX 1202. I'm going to go through 2D and 3D synchronous modeling. Some people may not even be aware that 2D synchronous actually exists. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and do a file open. I'm going to change my part type here to a DXF right there. Wow, it's right in front of me. And as I open this up, it opens up an import wizard. So I can do things on the import where it automatically picks up what the units are of the import. I can heal bodies, simplify the geometry, I can optimize. I'm not going to check any of these on because I want to see what it looks like when I bring it in. You say, okay, and finish that. And then I have a part that shows up. I'm going to change my background here so it's a little bit easier to see, a little bit easier on the eyes maybe. And if I look under non-timestamp geometry in my part navigator, I can see that I've got some arcs, some lines, and it's collecting them in kind of a different way. And if you're familiar with DXF import-export, you know that sometimes you end up with multiple lines on top of one another, lines broken up into tiny little segments. So I'm going to run an optimization on this. I'm going to go to curve, optimize 2D curve, and it wants me to select curves and points. So I'm going to select all these curves, and this is going to optimize. So everything that's doubled up on top of each other is going to create a sketch. So I'm going to specify a CSIS and just let this be an absolute CSIS on this particular part. I know I brought it in the absolute. I could pick other geometry if I needed to. This is actually going to turn it into a sketch for me. So now I've started with the sketch. So get in here and I'm going to edit the sketch. Just double click on it and I'm going to get into the sketch itself. And I can see here that I need 182 constraints. So pretty much there goes the rest of my morning trying to get this one constrained if I really wanted to do that. And you can see it here that I can just pull stuff apart. So while I'm in a sketch, this little gallery right here has a bunch of tools in it that unfortunately are hidden in this little drop down. So what I've done is I pulled them out and put them over here, and I made my own little grouping. I want to use a move curve. And I need to make an edit to this. So basically my workflow on this is it's Friday at 4:45, and the boss says we need to make changes because the laser table needs to get an updated part. And the only thing we have is a DXF, and that guy's on vacation. Go. So I want to make some changes here. Pick a move curve, and with synchronous tools we get this finder, and this one is a curve finder. So we can see symmetry left, right, and top, bottom. So I can see how it's picking the curve geometry up. And the next piece of geometry that I pick also brings up my curve finder again. So it sees, again, symmetry left, right, and top, bottom. So if I also pick up, say, concentric, it's picking up one of them, but only picked up one. So I'm going to leave that behind right now and then try to pick up that circle. Then again, I can see symmetry left, right, and top, bottom. But for some reason, it's kind of missing this one down here in my lower right-hand corner. I want to uncheck that one and then pick this guy and then see if I can pick up symmetry that way. So there I've picked up symmetry across the part. This is, again, unconstrained. I want to flip my axis, and I need to, the job was to move this out, say 75 millimeters, make it wider by 75. So I'm going to make it 75 divided by 2. You can see here I get a preview of what's going to happen. So 2D synchronous is allowing me to essentially keep my sketch essentially constrained, but it's not constrained by normal approaches of what we see in NX. Again, if I wanted to do an offset move curve, I could have it pick all connected curves up here, and I could scale this part by say 2 millimeters, and it will offset that. Let's make it a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. 10 millimeters, and flip that to the other side, and you see how the overall part's just going to grow in size. And I'm just going to cancel that. I'm going to do a resize curve. And if I pick my fillet over here, I can see symmetry again, left, right, and top, bottom. And I can change it as a fillet, so I can make it softer or sharper. Or I can change it from center, and I can see how it's going to scale my part a little bit. Okay, but it maintains relationships that it sees as logical relationships in my part. So that's a legacy 2D to basically a 3D workflow. From here, it would be very simple to turn this into a 3D part. Okay, so I have a sketch, again, in NX, I can turn this into a 3D part. So I'm going to open up another part that looks almost exactly the same. But this one, when I go into the sketch, this is fully constrained. I see right here it's fully constrained. The nice thing about this tool set is the same problem arises. I need to make this part 75 millimeters wider. I've got a dimension right here. I'm just going to double click on that dimension and edit it. I'm going to go to the end of the dimension and just add in. So plus 75 divided by 2, and it's not playing nice. I see some things that are not operating properly. Go ahead and close that. I'll Control Z and bring that back. Maybe I can try it a different way. Maybe I just say plus 50, see if I can get it to bump out, and then I get conflicting constraints. And it's just telling me that there's an overconstraint condition. And one of the things that I find in my line of work is the worst possible sketch out there is somebody else's sketch, because you really don't have any idea how they put it together. And the second worst is my own sketch 2 weeks later, because I don't remember how I put it together. So I'm going to use move curve on this. And for this one, I'm just going to grab all of this geometry down here. And I can see that it picks symmetry left, right. I'll flip my direction arrow, and I'll key in 75 divided by 2. And if you pay attention to these values up here, you'll see things change. So it went through and recalculated my distance, my dimensional constraints that I have on the part, and it's still fully constrained. Okay, so that in itself is pretty awesome. Another workflow that I have is I need to rotate the center section by 45 degrees. So I'll do a move curve, select all of these, and I get a little manipulator that shows up down here. I'm just going to drag that so it's stuck in the center so I can rotate that 45 degrees. And I want you to pay attention to P24 at 15 millimeters right here. Also, we've got some horizontal constraints and some vertical constraints. Okay, so I key this in at 45 degrees. It rotates. I get a preview of it, and I say OK. And then now I need 9 constraints. It took that 15 millimeter dimension and turned it into this 10.6. And if I throw another dimension on here, it's at 15. So it's maintaining the relationship, but it's also, this is a horizontal dimension, so it's the same length of line, but at a horizontal dimension. I probably wouldn't want to leave it like this. I'd want to go through and constrain it, but again, I really only have 8 constraints to finish on this. So with that, it's really a time saver to a great degree. There's a delete curve in this set. So if I use a delete curve and just start working my way around, you'll see how it's going to heal. And I have heal checked on over here. So yeah, you might ask yourself, why do you want to have a delete curve when I can just select the curve and then delete it and it goes away? Well, the reason for that is because it has heal built into it. So if I select my same curve, you can see how it's going to preview and show me the end result there. So what I want to do is knock off these ears. And I'll use a delete curve and then pick these curves here and these curves here. Okay, and now I need 14 constraints. So it's removed geometry. This is now a single line all the way around, and I don't have to worry about things moving around on me unexpectedly. So I can use delete curve to make that work. Same thing exists on this one as well, as far as if I were to get rid of these curves, maybe even this one here, and I wanted to make these two coincident, things are going to move around unexpectedly. But if I back this out, Control Z, make my delete curves, it will heal, and then now I just have a single entity that's left behind.